Speaking of goofy and being a Russian asshat, Tucker Carlson's very upset with us, you guys, because we're being meansies to Vladimir Putin. And us being meansies to Vladimir Putin is the same as George W. Bush and the dumb shit that he did. So if you don't like George W. Bush and the dumb shit that he did, you're the same as him if you're being meansies to Vladimir Putin.
How many times have Europeans tried to invade Russia? A few.
Jesus Christ. Just got their gumption up and decided to invade? You mean Germans, you dumb motherfucker? When did NATO ever try to invade Russia? When did the NATO countries, since the formation of NATO, try to invade Russia? Never. How many countries has Russia invaded since NATO was formed? At least 3, if you don't give a shit about African countries, which you clearly don't.
Napoleon tried. Why does everyone want to invade Russia? It's far away.
Nope. Nobody does.
It's freezing.
Well, China wants part of it because it was theirs.
No one ever succeeds in doing it. It's like
because they give up, just like Afghanistan. They're like, ugh, this sucks. I'm going home.
Afghanistan.
Right. There you go. Which is a dump. Afghanistan is not the graveyard of civilizations. Everybody who's been across that desert wasteland has eventually gone, fuck it, let's just go around. Isn't there a river we can take?
Or Yemen.
Hold on.
Not a long track record of victory.
Yeah, nobody wants Yemen, shithead. Half the Yemenis don't want Yemen.
Forces taking control. There are a few peoples around the world that are tough to beat, history suggests. And the Russians are at the top of that list. So why do...
No, they're not. They would have lost World War II if we hadn't done Lend-Lease with them. They relied on the United States as much as, if not more, than the English did.
People keep trying. Well, in a word, resources. That's why.
There's too much oil in circulation and we don't need their fucking minerals. They're not rare. They're all over the earth. What? What are we getting from Russia? What is it? Vodka? Underage prostitutes like Scott Ritter likes?
Russia is unimaginably large. Literally.
No, I can imagine it.
Unimaginably.
Yeah, but most people can't imagine how far Nevada is across if you had to walk it.
People in the West haven't imagined how large Russia is.
It's like Canada plus 15 feet.
Russia is larger than China and India put together.
Yeah, but it's 80% of the country's fucking permafrost most of the year.
You combine the landmass of China, so big you can barely get your head around it.
Where everybody can move and there's trains and roads and you could pretty much cross the entire country even during the worst parts of winter, even northern Mongolia to Xinjiang and back. You can go from Mongolia down to Hong Kong and back, but there are most of, like 60% of Russia, you can't even cross it most of the year.
And India, almost as big.
Okay, and again, there's lots of cities in fucking India. There's tons of cities in China. Russia has 3.
And together, they're smaller than Russia.
In landmass, but not in worth, not in output. If they're that big, why is their economy smaller than Italy? For real. Hold on, I gotta check something. Sorry. Yeah. Let's see. Okay. There we go. Okay. Russia's GDP, the whole country, is 2.2 to 2.5 trillion dollars. Okay? So mark that up there. 2.2 to 2.5 trillion dollar GDP in Russia. California's GDP is $4 trillion. Texas's GDP is $2.7 trillion. New York is 2.3. Florida has 1.3. It is one U.S. state, and Russia's GDP is only double that of one American state. All that landmass, and it's got the same GDP as Texas. And by the way, I think they're lying, so I don't even buy their numbers. So let's just say they're equal to New York City, or New York State, rather. Think about the landmass of New York State versus the landmass of Russia. The fuck difference does it make? It's like saying, like, an island, you're going to count, like, it's this tiny little, the Cyprus, or you know, one of these areas where they have, like the Bank of Cyprus has all this money, the Cayman Islands, and you go, this tiny little sliver has all this money going through it, more than the Russian economy, clearly. But it's basically the same size if you count the ocean floor, because it's just as useful.
Siberia itself is about the size of the continental United States.
And it's almost completely uninhabitable. When's the last time you vacationed in Siberia? This motherfucker went to Russia and didn't leave Moscow.
Like 10 million people living there. In all of Russia, there are about 140 million?
Yeah. And all of it in the west part of the country.
Something like that. In all of Russia. Meanwhile, Russia has the deepest energy reserves in the world.
No. The U.S. with Alaska, and arguably the outlying area of Canada, if you check their northern coast, if they were able to mine in that area with a thaw, the same way the Russians hope to, with a thaw in their areas, Canada would have an equal amount. And Venezuela has, the biggest oil reserves after that.
Some of the highest uranium enrichment in the world.
So what? Enrichment. That does not mean uranium stores. It does not mean like uranium deposits. They have the most uranium enrichment because they are nuke crazy, you shithead.
It is, by some measures, the most gold in the world.
Because they steal it from Africa.
Silver.
Also, pretty rocks. And
bauxite for aluminum. Timber, by far the largest timber reserves in the world.
Reserves. Okay, this is where he's playing with it. First of all, no. South America, Africa, Canada, the United States, there's shit ton, like we need fucking particle board from Russia. Secondly, the reason you have the reserves is because they're unreachable, you dumb motherfucker. They're reserves because nobody wants to go out there and cut them down because they'll die in the process.
Which people still need, by the way.
No, we don't. We don't need Russian trees, you tit.
Pulp for paper, dimensional.
Yeah, where are we gonna get all of our printer paper if Russia's mean to us? The fuck out of here, paper. Shut the fuck up.
Lumber for building. People still need trees.
Yeah. Thanks, Canada. How many trees do you think we fucking need, you weirdo?
And Russia has more than any other place, primarily in Siberia, but not...
Primarily in Siberia. Yes, where it's too cold to cut them down, where you will die sawing through them. They're fir trees.
Just in Siberia. And, of course, farmland.
Farmland. Shut the fuck up.
And agricultural products.
Nope. No. Ukraine has a bigger output. And by the way, he might be including the Ukrainian territory as Russia in this description. I'm fairly certain that's what he's doing.
Fertilizer. Wheat.
Fertilizer. Jesus Christ. We just got, there was this huge deposit found in Michigan that completely replaced what everybody was like, oh no, if we don't have a good relationship with Russia, where are we going to get all of our fertilizer from? And it's this. Hold on. Let me it's specific to this thing. And this was just, again, in necessity being the mother of invention. It's I don't remember what it's called. Yeah, potash, potassium chloride. There's a massive deep underground deposit of potash, which is what we were getting from. See, I just remember all this shit. Who needs AI? Confirmation. Let's see. The primary fertilizer precursor found in Michigan is a massive deep underground deposit of potash, a vital potassium source for fertilizers located in north-central Lower Peninsula, with a major mining project underway near Evart to extract it for U.S. agriculture. Thanks, Joe Biden. Michigan also deals with issues related to other fertilizer components, such as excess phosphorus runoff from agricultural overuse causing water color. That's a different aspect of their leftovers. It doesn't know what I was asking about, just the potash part. It's a naturally occurring mineral salt rich in potassium, essential for plant growth. The Michigan Potash and Salt Company is developing a solution mining project near Evart to extract potash and salt. We have fucking plenty. Like, does this motherfucker look anything up besides, the conversion rate for rubles to cash, U.S. currency?
Russia has as much or more than anyone and very few people. So
so we should invade, is what you're saying. If you're using Trump logic, I don't understand why we're fucking around with Venezuela to take their oil. Why don't we just invade Russia? Maybe you're right. Maybe Tucker Carlson's right. We should invade Russia and take their shit. Fuck out of here.
Promise of access to Russian resources.
Yawn.
And space. And
all you got to do is let them rape about 100,000 women a year. That's all. And enslave people from Dagestan and Kazakhstan and Mongolia and North Korea. Isn't it worth it for a little extra fertilizer that you could mine it in your own country and give people good wages and good benefits and that kind of stuff? Why do that when you can just buy it from them after they extract it using slave labor?
Land.
I got to tell you, this is the biggest used car salesman bullshit PR stunt on behalf of Russia. He's done a couple of these monologues lately, and it's really odd.
Has been a siren that has called invaders for centuries. And
no, it hasn't. They're the ones who've been doing the invading. Especially in the last century.
No judgment, by the way. You can see why. If Greenland is a
what the fuck by the way, Genghis Khan, the Muscovites signed a deal basically with Genghis Khan, just for the Mongols to just take everybody south of them, including their own people.
What is Russia? The biggest prize of all. And you saw this attitude on display the moment the wall fell.
What? No. We weren't celebrating access to their shit, stupid. We were celebrating that people thought it was the end of the Cold War. That we would actually be friends, that they would act like fucking Europeans and not start salami slicing their way through multiple countries and murdering people.
And
what? Seriously, what does this motherfucker think we were celebrating when the wall came down? Couldn't have been freedom. What kind of gay? What are you talking about? Who lives like this?
Rapacious foreigners, mostly bankers, moved into Russia and stripped it.
Aw.
And they were helped along by a lot of unscrupulous indigenous Russians. It wasn't just outsiders who did it. Some Russian oligarchs did it to their own people, but
and continue to, including Vladimir Putin, who is arguably the richest man in the world, even though his salary is $140,000 a year.
Fact is, a small group of people denuded the country, looted it.
Well, then why is there anything left? If they looted it, maybe all the trees are gone.
And unfortunately, this always plays out in exactly the same way. It's not enough to loot. You have to take everything and drive everyone else into despair, hopelessness, and poverty. And that's exactly what happened.
Sorry. Russia, the entire country's in despair and poverty right now. You were just over there telling us how everything works great there and is cleaner than any place you've ever seen in your life. You were basically playing like a Chinese like suck up white monkey vlogger over there for Putin and his buddies. But now you're telling us it's a dump? Tell us something we don't know.
Russia 30 years ago, 35 years ago, was certainly the poorest country west of, I don't know.
Right. I mean, the world's round, so at a certain point, you just keep going around in a circle, and then what's west anymore?
Who even knows? I mean,
I don't know. It's your fucking analogy, dipshit.
Bhutan.
West of what? Why is that? You mean China, North Korea, the other countries that it has agreements with and shares a political philosophy with?
Really poor. And divided and sad and defeated, and alcoholism and drug use and gasoline huffing and suicide were endemic.
And then Vladimir Putin came and he turned it all around.
And who did that? Well, the Russians to some extent did it to themselves.
And it is our responsibility as their white European saviors to protect them from themselves by opening up AA branches all over the...
They were living in this Soviet system for 70 years. But
Yes, which we forced upon them through our ceaseless invading from time immemorial.
outsiders did it to them too. That's a fact. And whatever you think of Putin, he's bad.
Yes, he is.
Putin got that under control.
No, he didn't. He set up an oligarch system that was worse than the one before it, and he's run it like the czars under the pretense of fake democracy by just switching positions from president to prime minister back and forth with puppets in the other seat, and run it since he got to power.
And Russia in 2026 bears no resemblance whatsoever to Russia in 2000, the year Putin took over. And one of the main changes he made
was to kill 1 million of his citizens in a fruitless war against a smaller country that's kicking his ass.
Is he kicked the money changers out of the temple. He did.
No, he didn't. He seized their money for himself.
Sorry. Everyone
Yes, he's basically Jesus. You're right. Putin is basically Jesus.
else has forgotten that, ignores it. He kicked the oligarchs out, or he brought them
Nope.
to his side. You can't act independent.
Sorry. He kicked them out or what?
The money changers out of the temple. He did.
Just like Jesus.
Sorry. Everyone else has forgotten that, ignores it. He kicked the oligarchs out, or he brought them to his side.
What? He didn't kick them out. He kicked them out a window and took their shit. And then the other ones were too afraid to go against him, lest they too get kicked out a fucking window.
You can't act independently of the national interest. Sure, you can become a billionaire, but some of it has to go to the country.
And by the country, he means him.
And that was spun in the West as
The reality?
cartel behavior. He's the mafia boss. Okay, fine. He's the mafia boss.
That's fine. I mean, what's bad about being a cartel boss? I mean, ultimately, if you kill your rivals and murder people and set up an authoritarian government, and you kill protesters and you invade other countries because you wanted... Anyways.
But the real answer to the question, did it work or not, is obvious not just in the numbers, but
The numbers of dead in the Ukraine war,
in the state of the country, the visible state of the country now versus
which is still a dump.
25 years ago. It's a completely different place.
Okay, so now he's back to Moscow. So fucking sweet, bro. You got to go. Party like a Russian.
It's no longer Bhutan. It's not Africa.
Well, first of all, there are a lot more Africans fighting in this war for Russia that were suckered into this, given a fucking wooden gun, like a piece of plywood cut out to look like an AK-47 with a anti-tank mine strapped to their fucking chest and sent into war. No kidding. So it's a lot more like Bhutan than it's ever been.
By some measures, it's much richer than any country in Western Europe. In fact, by every measure, it is.
Except in, freedom and safety and not being a pariah to its neighbors and invention, manufacturing, economics. What was the other one? Oh, yeah, they got a bunch of fucking trees.
By every single measure. Is it
No.
richer than Spain? Is it richer than the UK? Oh, yeah, much.
Based on what? untapped tree resources. Get the fuck out of here.
So that is
Hold on. That's just, I gotta stop there for a second. That's just so fucking goofy. Like, no, it's not. It's got the same GDP as Texas, and they made it up. It's bullshit. They're that big. They're unimaginably large with all these resources. And Texas, we don't even count the areas in Texas that are native land. The reservations, which are sovereign land. They're actually not American territory, which is a big chunk of fucking Texas. So Texas, as much as you see the shape of the state on the map, it looks like Swiss cheese if you count all the areas where that land does not belong to us. If you shrink it down, it's even, it's probably maybe a fifth smaller, a sixth smaller than it actually looks on the map because of that territory taken out. And yet it has an equal GDP to Russia with this immense wealth and this immensity of the immenseness of the immensity of everything.
Both tempting.
This is just fucking weird.
To elites from around the world. Wait a second. Why do 140 million Russians get all this stuff? We should have some too. But
No, we don't want any of their shit. What are you talking about? This has never been about invading Russia. That's their problem. Their biggest problem, Russia's biggest problem is they don't have anything anybody wants except oil, and now we don't even need it anymore. Thanks to the shale revolution and the fact that we are moving towards electric cars, especially China, which was supposed to run off with all, as soon as they were printing millionaires for a while, and all those people are going to want gas-guzzling cars, so they started pumping all this oil in the Middle East, and then, oh shit, China's economy and their population isn't nearly as big as we thought, and here we are stuck with 3.5 million barrels a day more oil than we need right fucking now, with another 6 million a day that could come online at any time, which would drive the price down to $20 a barrel, which would make it a useless commodity for Russia. They need the price higher. This is so fucking diluted. It's odd.
Is also an indictment of their leadership. If you're Boris Johnson and your ancestors ruled the waves, ruled the British Empire.
Sorry, the czars didn't control most of Central Asia? Sorry, you think England's unique in its imperial... Hey, real quick, did they speak English as the primary language throughout all of South America? How about Africa? Is English the first language of a lot of the African nations, or is it French? You think all the Central Asian countries speak Russian because they wanna?
Your country is a kind of sad Urdu-speaking museum now. That's insulting. Really, the Russians? Those weird half-Slavic... I mean, they dominate world chess, but, like, really? They're not...
They used to. They don't anymore.
Really white and...
What? They're not really white. Sorry. So the Russians are victims of anti-white... of white bigotry at this point. So I guess Robin DiAngelo's got to write a book about white fragility. She's got to add a chapter for Russians now. Fuck me.
Well, how are they doing so well? This is outrageous.
They're not doing well.
It is an indictment of your own leadership. And in countries across Europe, the leaders feel that way. Russia is an embarrassment to them.
What the fuck? Sorry, we're jealous now? We're racist against them because they're not quite white. And we're also jealous because Moscow looks like a fucking like Persian disco most of the time.
Because it is, relatively speaking, thriving.
Relatively speaking. No, it's not. Jesus Christ, man. Go someplace besides, go to Kursk.
And so they all, as one.
All right. He's got to be reading this, right? This is so insane. Like, dial it down like 30%, because this is lunacy. Nobody buys this. Solovyov doesn't buy this. Simonyan doesn't buy this. Fucking Putin thinks this is funny.
Backs the Biden administration's plan to have a war with Russia. And let's stop lying. This was not an unprovoked invasion.
Yes, it was.
Putin just randomly went over the line into eastern Ukraine and...
No, it wasn't random. He strategically wanted the resources of that country. You know that whole thing about being jealous and wanting the resources of another country? That's why he did it.
Stole these oblasts. He stole this land that belonged to another people. That's a total lie. And it's not a defense of Putin to call it out as a lie, because it is.
Yes, it is. It's a lie, and it is a defense of Putin. It is that's the only reason to even think this. They were a sovereign country. They have been since the Soviet Union broke up. Russia has taken all or part of other countries in this process of trying to reclaim territories it lost during that when the country broke up. Instead of signing deals with these other countries, like every other imperial structure once it fell, these fuckers tried to re-seize it.
And everybody knows it now.
No, they don't. You're fucking nuts. Jesus Christ.
The truth is that in 2001, Putin, same guy, same leader, asked the Bush administration in person, directly to George W. Bush, I would like to join NATO. I would like to join the defensive alliance that exists to keep me from moving west into Western Europe. In other words, you won. I'm joining your team.
No. In other words, I know I'm a former KGB spy and I've only been on the scene for about a year, and you've overheard me multiple times because of the spies you've set up in my cabinet that I'm going to weasel my way in and undermine Europe so that we can re-seize land that we lost and recreate the Ruskimir. But I'm your buddy now. I'm buddy. I'm here. We're all good. We're all good, buddy. Like, this is it. Like, for fuck's sake. Maybe this is a broken clock moment for George W. Bush, or as I like to call him, George W. Bush, or W.C. Bush. But maybe it was just a moment where he actually made a smart decision. Went, I don't know. I looked into his soul and I was like, oh, fuck, this guy hasn't got one.
And due in part to his own limitations as a leader, and due in part to the counsel that he received from Condoleezza Rice at the time, George W. Bush turned down that offer.
It's not he can't do it. He can't unilaterally put Russia in NATO, and the rest of the countries wouldn't allow it. And by 2001, they were already invading Chechnya and Georgia. It ended up being next. They had plans to invade Ukraine. They were clear about it. They were sock puppeting Belarus already. They had border disputes. It would have made it impossible for them to join. It's the same problem Ukraine had.
And
this is just fucking, like, I mean, I understand you got to be paid for this kind of hard sell, because this is fucking embarrassing. Like, this is so obviously bullshit. This has got to be a tape he's just making to send so Russia can go, here's what our good friend Tucker said on this show, so they can play a clip of this on 60 Minutes over there. That's what this has got to be for.
Prevented Russia from joining NATO.
He can't unilaterally prevent him. And also, why didn't Russia come to NATO as a whole? Why would he think George Bush has the ability to get him into NATO automatically, unilaterally anyways? Just dumb.
And the guest we're going to speak to in a moment, if you're wondering if he has a good track record of calling future events, said at the time, this decision to turn down Vladimir Putin's, this was 25 years ago, Vladimir Putin's request to join NATO, to join the West, to all be in it together, to work together. This decision made by the Bush administration guarantees a collision with the West. We are now on a collision course.
Why? If NATO is a defensive organization and you're not planning on attacking, differences make. Let them spend their fucking money. Get to business.
Of course, he was absolutely right.
Well, he was absolutely right that Russia attacked Chechnya and Georgia and then Ukraine. Anybody that wasn't in NATO that bordered them.
Because NATO didn't want Russia, because NATO wanted a war with Russia. And boy,
no, they don't.
They got it.
they did not get it. We don't have a war between NATO and Russia right now. We do not.
And so from 2001 all the way to 2022, 21 years, NATO moved inexorably east.
It didn't move. Other countries recognizing the threat of Russia asked to join NATO because Russia was invading countries on its border and attacking countries in Africa just for the gold and shits and giggles.
Surrounding. This is not.
That was weird. That audio drop was theirs, not mine.
Inexorably east, surrounding Russia. And many times, again, this is not a defense of Russia. It's just a fact.
Yes, it is.
Many times the Russian government under Putin said, whoa, 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 whoa. You are threatening our core national interest, which is not to have other people's missiles on our borders. Back off.
Yeah, but you had missiles on their border. Also, what anti-ballistic missile systems on your border to protect from a nuclear launch from Russia, especially as they increasingly invaded other countries and pressed this whole Ruskamir thing, is a legit response. What he wanted was to expand himself through the CSTO, attack other countries, use mutual assured destruction as an umbrella under which he could attack anybody and threaten them with nukes if they tried to stop him. And then anybody who wanted to join NATO so that they would be protected using Article 5, he wanted to undermine that. He wanted to make sure that they didn't join so that he didn't want Ukraine not to join NATO because he was worried about missiles on his doorstep, or he'd have flipped out about Finland. He didn't give a shit. Finland's got a bigger border with them than Ukraine does. He flipped out because he's planning on invading those countries, and he didn't want those countries to have everybody else protecting them if that invasion occurred.
And then in 2014, the Obama administration overthrew the government of Ukraine.
Bullshit.
To put an American puppet in there.
Bullshit.
Thereby.
No, okay. First of all, Yanukovych was a Russian sock puppet. He worked with Paul Manafort, who they shot people on Euromaidan. The Ukrainians had independence. There was no reason for anything else. There was no reason for Russia to invade, except that Russia intended on taking the country over. Once it lost the political ability to do so from inside through their sock puppet, they decided to do it tactically, materially. They already had Ukraine in their estimation as long as Yanukovych was in. Also, if we put in a puppet, how come he's not still there? How come they had other elections?
By sealing the fate of nations. When that happened, and Sergei Karganov said it at the time, you have just guaranteed a war in Ukraine that will destroy Ukraine. So as you listen to the interview.
Because Russia wants that ground. Russia will not allow Ukraine to be independent. Not because the Ukrainians are planning on attacking Russia, but because Russia's planning on attacking Ukraine. And if you take away our puppet leader, we have to take it by force. That was entirely the point. Where the fuck is Yanukovych right now? Did he flee to the West? Is he living in Berlin? Is he living in London? Is he living, the former Ukrainian leader in exile who was working for the best of the Ukrainian people? He's in Russia. He escaped to Russia under the cover of night because they put an arrest warrant out for him. And then they went on to have other elections. Yanukovych, just like Assad, is a Russian puppet.
And we hope you listen carefully because the English is not flawless and it was done.
Well, I've watched your show. It never is.
Over satellite from Moscow. So it's not the best audio, but it's worth listening.
I'm sorry. I thought they were way ahead of us on all measures. It's not the best audio?
That man that you're going to hear has a long track record
of living in Moscow and working for Vladimir Putin and selling the line that the Russians want to sell about their territorial rights to Ukraine and that the people, if they try to be independent, have to die.
Calling events right. And it's not to detract from his powers of perception or his intellect, which is formidable, to say other people could have drawn the same conclusions because it's pretty freaking obvious.
Yes, that Vladimir Putin believes in the concept of Ruski Mir, that the world is Russian, just doesn't know it yet. And it's the one thing he has in common with the Iranian Ayatollah, for example. And they would just split the territories each of them can stand. He gets Europe, they get all of the Middle East. That's the goal. China gets all of Asia. That's their tripolar power structure. And the rest of us, by the way, if we try to stop it or we don't give way to it, which is the key, if we don't give way to it, then we have to die in the process because we're just interfering with it. This is just the way things have to be.
If you exclude Russia from NATO, you're probably seeking a war with Russia.
No, it's a defensive organization against Russia. Why would you let them in? Because they would have a say in it like they have in the UN. And when they're dealing like the Russians on the Human Rights Council, they're actively using slaves to fight their war right now. So the idea that the Russians get a seat at the table in the Human Rights Council is fucking stupid.
And if you try to put nuclear armed missiles on Russia's border, you're probably going to get a military response.
Right. That wasn't the plan, though. The anti-ballistic missiles are not nukes themselves.
It's exactly what he said.
Well, also, in this day and age, it doesn't matter if they're right next door. As a matter of fact, it's better if they're farther away. Let me explain this to you. So you got an arc where hitting something as it's in its arc over here is harder than hitting a barrage of areas close to your border where you strike them before you do your long-range strikes. If the missiles are right here, they're easier to hit from a tactical standpoint than if they were on a fucking submarine. But if you put missiles in Finland and in Ukraine and in other parts of Europe, where if Russia launches nukes against any of its neighbors, or God forbid the US or Canada or something like that, you can knock them out of the sky. You have 3 fail-safes, close range, mid-range, and long range, to knock them out of the sky before they strike their target. That's what Russia objects to.
And of course, he was laughed at
because without the threat of nuclear missiles, why would we let them fuck with everybody? Why would we let them attack Chechnya? Why would we let them attack Georgia? Why would we let them attack Ukraine and tap dance around that shit if we weren't worried about a nuclear exchange like this dipshit is always selling as a natural? That's going to happen. We're going to destroy the whole world. I mean, the fucking thumbnail of this video is nuclear holocaust.
Europe, where he'd spent a lot of his life.
Jesus. Yeah, because he's a Putinite.
And he was totally ignored by the United States. And our policymakers were on to this, that, or the other thing. They were not paying any attention at all. And to the extent they were.
Because we didn't intend to attack Russia, you dumb motherfucker. If we intended to attack Russia, we'd have been laser focused on that dump.
They were very excited for this war with Russia. And they never really explained why.
Because we aren't. We aren't. Nobody is interested in it. The problem Russia has is that nobody gives a fuck. Once we don't need their oil, or they don't have control of European countries' economies via that oil trade, nobody needs to ever listen to Russia about anything ever again. That's what's going on. The only thing that Russia adds to the world is the threat of nuclear annihilation. Even their fucking oil sales are at the barrel of a gun.
And then once that war began 4 years ago, they began to act.
It didn't begin 4 years ago. It began in like 10 minutes after they signed the 1997 NATO-Russia founding agreement because they were lying. They were planning this all along. And it really started in 2014 when the Ukrainians decided they didn't want a Russian sock puppet running their fucking country and they wanted to be truly independent. They wanted to join Europe. They wanted to join NATO. They wanted to be a part of that. And if Russia wanted to join, what difference does it make if Ukraine joins? Okay, we'll join next.
Through their proxy, the Ukrainian government under Zelensky, truly a proxy.
Nope.
In a war that has been managed from day one, in part by the CIA, our CIA.
No, not managed by the war. We've been helping them with intelligence. That's not managing it. They're managing quite fine, thank you very much. We've just been helping them defend themselves because they are fighting a much larger force for no fucking reason other than Russia wants the resources in that country. They want the farmland, they want the minerals, and they want the natural gas deposits, and they want the through line to Russia for their gas pipelines and stuff without having to pay transit fees. The same reason they salami slice their way into Georgia, just far enough so that the oil pipeline that goes from whatever Kazakhstan into Europe passes through that area that Russia has seized, so they have to pay basically protection money to Russia for that land, which isn't theirs. Killing a bunch of fucking goat herders so that they can claim 50 yards past an oil pipeline, so that the oil that passes through there is technically on Russian land, and therefore, you know, everybody has to pay for that going back and forth to guarantee themselves a slice of oil that isn't even theirs, and a pipeline they didn't even fucking build going to a client state that isn't theirs.
Targeting by the CIA, and anyone tells you that's not true is lying. They begin
also saying that the CIA, the United States, is helping, like, there's no mystery that we've been giving them intelligence. So saying that the CIA is part of that is sort of ridiculous. They are using satellite imagery that our country has access to through the military. How they're supplying it would be the Central Intelligence Agency or the DOD. Since we are not engaged in a war, that would be the conduit by which we get it to them. It's not a fucking secret. The CIA is our organization. When it's run right, it has value for the American people. The idea that this, like, everything the CIA does is just this thing to undermine America and foil Russia because they've got a grudge from 1987, you're mixing them up with Donald Trump.
to act with not just recklessness, but extreme recklessness. The kind.
Oh, it's much worse. Not cross out recklessness and put extreme recklessness.
of behavior that suggests you don't care about the consequences at all.
If we didn't care about the consequences at all, we just let the Russians rape the women and children of Bucha. We just let them kill everybody in that country. That's what Trump wants.
You're just all in. Actually, at some point, the kind of behavior that suggests a death wish.
Again, this is just like threat language from Russia. This is exactly what's like the people on 60 Minutes say. And this is basically notes from Russia read out loud in English because they don't translate. This is also, by the way, a guy who says that Israel calls the shots for America because he can relate in that Russia calls the shots for his show.
It's like, I actually want a nuclear holocaust.
No, we don't. Nobody does. And why the fuck would that trigger it? Why would that be an automatic thing? Because Russia gets scared? Because it's worried that we'll strike first? For what? Trees? Get the fuck out of here.
I'm happy to risk the lives of my family, my nation, and the world in a nuclear exchange.
Also, you're happy to let Russia rape and murder its way across Europe and Central Asia for fear of that because that's the talking point they fucking gave you.
And we know that because of what they did. They blew up Nord Stream.
No, they didn't. Also, it was a defunct pipeline at that point. The Germans weren't going to use it anymore. The contract had already been shut down. It was not insurable. They were getting sources for their gas from Norway and the United States. Now they're getting it from Norway, the United States, and Qatar. They don't need it.
Which was the main source of natural gas for Europe. So,
and it's funny that suddenly it's winter, and is Europe dark? Is everyone freezing to death in Europe for lack of the Nord Stream?
That did two things. One, it destroyed the European economy.
No, it didn't.
That was obviously going to happen.
No, it isn't. As a matter of fact, I guess in theory you could say that they bought more natural gas from us for a short time. And the price differential is what?
And it did.
No, it didn't. Not even close. It fucked up Russia's.
Because you can't have a robust economy, certainly not a manufacturing economy, without cheap energy.
Yeah, but it's not the same energy. You're not using natural gas for your manufacturing plants.
Without cheap energy, you're left with what? Real estate and finance. And of course, the people making these decisions are
Yeah, because Europe doesn't have any fucking trees.
familiar only with real estate and finance because that's the world they live in.
Sorry, the only material goods in Europe come from Russia, from these permafrost areas. This is fucking goofy. This gets stranger by the second.
In the real world, countries become rich and powerful and stable and resilient because they make things.
Right. What does Russia make besides trouble for its neighbors? Is that a Russian mic? Is that a Russian mic arm? Is that a Russian bookshelf? Is that a Russian frame on that picture? Is that a Russian TV? What in your fucking office besides the blood that courses through your veins was paid for by Russia or made in Russia? I'm dead serious. What is it that Russia provides? Where's the Russian car? Bigger than all these guys. Fuck Germany, right? But Germany's still producing cars. BMWs and Mercedes are still rolling off the lines everywhere, right? Still doing it. Still manufacturing them. Still own the rights to them. Even when they have plants in other countries, they get a cut. What's the Russian thing? Do you have a Russian blender? Do you have a Russian phone? What Russian invention? Is there a Russian AI you use? That's probably a dumb question. Probably does. I'm dead serious. Hold on. What? Vodka? Is that it? Wheat and cereal, which comes from Ukraine. Fish and seafood, mostly for Eastern European markets, just local shit. Mexico provides more fish and seafood to us than Russia does to Europe. Animal and vegetable fats and oils. Wood products and paper goods used in furniture, construction, and paper. It's an intermediate but often consumer-facing good. Let's see. 65% of all total exports from Russia are energy and raw materials. Food products make up the other 20%. Let's see. I'm trying to find what major electronics. Let's see. What major electronic consumer goods are let's see, come from Russia that are on par with the U.S., Asia, and or Europe? Just curious. Let's talk about inventing stuff. We do live in an information age, after all. TechSet? Anybody got a TechSet smartphone? Basic feature phones. Octava, which is audio electronics. They do microphones and headphones. DNS retail chain manufacturers. Laptops, desktops, tablets, smartphones, accessories. I understand they're assembled domestically, though not globally dominant. Russia's electronics manufacturer using PCBs, integrated circuits, semiconductors, and related components, mostly for industrial, telecom, and defense uses, not consumer giants. Let's see. Why Russian consumer electronics aren't on par with U.S., Asia, Europe. This is why they're not on par with... Why Russian computer electronics aren't on par with the U.S., Asia, Europe. 1, market structure and imports. Consumer electronics demand in Russia is high, but much of it is imported. Phones, laptops, TVs from Asia, Europe. Global competition. Companies in the U.S., South Korea, China, Japan, Europe dominate global production. Massive scale, R&D, and export networks. But they're amazing, aren't they, Tucker? Sanctions and supply chains. Exporting advanced electronics, especially chips and processors, is hampered by licensing and geopolitical barriers, even if they have them, which they don't. export profile of Russia. Electronics make up a small portion of Russia's total export value compared to energy, metals, and agriculture, with electronic machinery even declining as an export category. The entire category of electronic machinery is declining. Let's see. They have no globally competitive electronics at all. None. And I don't know anybody who would fucking use one if they were. There's some fairly cool looking Chinese devices. I'm not going to use them either for the exact same fucking reason.
So that's the first thing.
No. Say that again, though. Listen to this shit.
Live in. But in the real world,
countries
become rich and powerful and stable and resilient because they make things.
Yeah, that's right. And Russia makes nothing. It makes nothing. It digs shit up out of the ground and sells it. You think it makes those trees, you dumb motherfucker? You think it makes the oil? You even think it makes the gold and the silver. It digs shit up and sells it. It doesn't make dick. It's a fucking, its economy is stuck in 1910. It's a resource capitalist venture. That's it. That's what the oligarchy is all about. That's resource capitalism. When you talk about the word capitalism, what it really, really means, that's what they're talking about. People who are, I own this land and underneath it is the gold, oil, whatever the fuck you want. And I'm not going to make anything with it. But if you want to make something with it, you got to come to me first. You do all the inventing. You do all the risk. You actually make some of this shit. But if I just happen to be born sitting on this shit, you got to come to me. That's resource capitalism. That is all Russia has. And the fact that he just buried his own fucking stupid argument with one sentence.
Real estate and finance, because that's the world they live in. But in the real world, countries become rich and powerful and stable and resilient because they make things.
Right. They make food products that are specific to them, like wine and cheese and pasta and artwork even that from France and Italy. They make cars and industrial goods. They make robots and the Czech Republic makes light sport aircraft. That's what I studied to get my pilot's license in a Czech light sport. They make shit. Russia doesn't make anything. This is so fucking weird. Someone please send this video to Tucker Carlson. I need to talk across the table to this dipshit. This is so odd. I mean, there is no excuse for this other than being paid. I mean, we know he flew over there and all expense paid and they made, he was only allowed to go where his handlers took him and shit. It just reeked of a controlled trip to China. But I don't think this motherfucker would have looked around if he had the chance. He knows what alleys not to walk down because he'd have to report what he sees. So, that whole series in Russia should have been called plausible deniability, however you say that in fucking Russian.
So that's the first thing. We blew up Nord Stream so that...
Okay, Nord Stream isn't a thing. It's a delivery system for something you dug up. It's not even the shit you use it in.
Destroys our supposedly closest allies in Europe, particularly in Germany.
Nope. Germany has not been destroyed. Surprise, fucking surprise. They found other sources for natural gas. It was just the cheapest. This is the same shit they talk about where China makes most of our Tylenol and shit like that. First of all, apparently, according to Trump, we're not even supposed to take Tylenol anyways.
Not good.
So the fact that it's made in China might be something. Maybe they've been slipping something into the Tylenol all these years to make us all autistic. Maybe that was the thing that they discovered, but they don't want to tell you because Trump's friends with Xi Jinping. Woo, woo, whatever the fuck. But in this circumstance, they were able to move, the reason we get most of our acetaminophen from China is not because it's the only place that makes it. It's because they make a lot of it and they make it very cheap. India does too. And as soon as we stopped buying it from China, we started buying it from India. Because they got a lot of fucking people who consume a lot of acetaminophen. So once you start making that shit, you just keep making it and sell the excess. You know where we do that too? In the red states with fucking ammunition. The military contracts out to ammunition companies and they make an extra amount all the time to keep the amount of ammo available to citizens cheaper than normal. We heard Glenn Beck bitching about how the price of ammo was going to go up because the Biden administration said we're not going to, government contracted ammo suppliers are not going to sell the excess anymore. They're going to give it to us because we need it. If we're buying it and you make more, we'll get first dibs at that pile. Because it's the whole purpose is taxpayer dollars to keep our military ready. But rednecks wanted socialized fucking ammo.
Germans hate themselves so much they won't even admit that we did it, but we did it through proxies. But we.
All right, no, we didn't. No, we didn't. We didn't blow up it through proxies at all. Russia blew up its own fucking pipeline. It's got more cameras on it than any pipeline in history, and they managed not to get video of any of the explosives being laid. You know why? Because there was a fucking pig inside of it. Not a living pig, but a pipe, like, inspecting piece of gear or whatever it was. They ran the bomb into the pipe and blew it up. That's why the hole goes out. That's why there's no film of the people planning the bomb.
Did it.
Russia blew up their own shit.
As we said we would. And the second
No, we didn't. Stopping it and blowing it up are two different things.
thing that it did is send a very clear message to Russia. We're done.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain that that message was sent well before the fucking pipeline.
We're not going to have a kind of Vietnam scenario where we have a proxy war, but, there are limits to our behavior. Yeah, we'll spray Agent Orange, but we're not actually going to, level Hanoi.
Sorry, so blowing up the pipeline was the equivalent of spraying Agent Orange on Russia.
We bomb it on the edges, but we're, there are limits to what we're going to do because we don't actually want to war with the Soviets.
They're not Soviets anymore. Unless he's still counting the Hanoi part and he's just using the language.
American and NATO behavior since the beginning of this war suggests there are no limits at all.
Russia's behavior when they started this war suggests there are no limits on it. So this is a response.
Blowing up Russian infrastructure.
After they blew up Ukrainian infrastructure for years.
Trying to assassinate Putin repeatedly. They lie about it, but
No. All right. That didn't happen. The bombing of his house when he wasn't even fucking there.
Yes, they have. Yes, they have. The Ukrainian government has tried to assassinate Vladimir Putin multiple times.
What? Were you there watching it? Based on what? Based on what? What Russia says? We're just taking them at their word. That's how this works now. So our own allies, our country, our government, and all that kind of stuff requires, more scrutiny than a prosecutor's, cross-examination. But Russia, we're going to take it at its word. They told me while I was over there. They showed me shell casings or drone bits or some shit.
Has the CIA assisted with the targeting of those drones?
No, or he'd be dead, I guess.
Yes, obviously.
Obviously. Based on what? What's the obvious part? Why? Why would they need that? What would be the assistance with the targeting? The awareness that he's in a particular place? There are commercial satellites that could tell you that.
Tell me how you didn't.
What does that mean? Tell me how you didn't help him. No. The burden is yours. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Knock yourself out, dipshit. This is, by the way, this is fucking way crazier than I thought it would be. Like, this is even further down the, up Putin's butthole than I think any of us expected. Like, this is a hard fucking sell. And this is the second big monologue like this we've seen from Tuckums in the last month. The check must have cleared.
And again, it's not taking sides.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You are siding with Russia over the West. You think the West is bullying Russia to the point where Russia would have no choice but to nuke the rest of the world, and that they would be justified in doing so, and it would be our fault for wearing that short skirt and walking around at night in that part of town.
against the United States with Russia. No. It's
Yes, that is exactly what you're doing. This is Russia first. Tucker Carlson, Russia first.
trying to think clearly about what are the potential consequences of this kind of behavior, torquing it up,
I think he said torquing it up, not twerking it up. That's what he does when he's over there sitting on Putin's lap.
Over 4 years to a point where you've cornered a great power.
They're not a great power. They were the illusion of a great power. They have nukes. That's why you think they're a great power. They're about as much of a great power as fucking Pakistan. But interestingly enough, they're more insane.
Oh, but that's the problem. They don't consider Russia a great power.
No, we don't. At all. They contribute nothing. They dig shit up out of the ground and they sell it. If it wasn't under their feet, they would have died of starvation a long time ago. If there wasn't oil under Russia's feet and gas and minerals or whatever, they'd be on world food stamps. We'd be treating them like an African nation right now. Little kids would be told to finish their broccoli. There are kids starving in Russia.
When we started this company,
what a dipshit. Oh my God. I think he said twerking too. I was just giving him the benefit of the doubt. Someone please send this video via Shitter or one of these other sites that he's on to this dipshit. Because I would be glad to confront him about all of these details. It is pathetic. It is cheerleading Vladimir Putin, pure and simple. And everything, you know, in the same way that everything Trump does must be seen through the lens of distraction from the Epstein files. Everything that Tucker Carlson is doing these days is an attempt to build up his bona fides with a very feral group of maggots in one particular area, and then turning them loose on the Russia first beat. That's how you do a wind up when you're trying to like dismantle a country from the inside, when you're doing these kind of asymmetrical warfare things. You co-opt a dipshit like Tucker Carlson, you pay him to be your voice box, and then you go, hey man, go out there and start plate spinning about conspiracies and all this kind of stuff. You know, be on Candace Owens' side one week and then against her the next week or whatever. Just drive the energy up to a fever pitch. And then right when you got them kind of like, in this heightened energy space where they're, ready to snap, deliver this poor Russia message. And we'll give you the notes. We'll give you the outline of what you're supposed to say. Now, when we give you these notes, real quick, they're going to be insane. Nobody's going to believe them except for your most fervent dipshit followers who actually believe you were attacked by an alien or a demon rather that gave you all the same scratches you would get being butt fucked by a trucker in a truck stop bathroom. Only those people will believe this, but that'll be enough. It'll wind them up and send them out on shitter to defend us. And so you'll help us create an asymmetrical defense army just through this wind up and, it's like one of those pull cars. Like he just zzz like that, and then you set it off in our direction. Man. And I would call, I'll call out any of these dickheads. None of them are, my phone's not ringing with requests to be debated by me on any of these issues. Wonder why. They'll bring on all these like namby-pamby half-ass arguers, but nobody that will push back on their shit or knows what they're talking about. They are selectively choosing. It's like, remember, I think it was in Rocky 3 where Mickey was supposedly picking, pugs and losers to fight Rocky. They were good fighters, but they weren't killers like this guy. Nobody who could take the title. That's what all of Tucker Carlson's guests are. They're either there to fillet his ridiculous argument and allow him to go, of course, or drive up some ridiculous spun conspiratorial theory that he has that make him the dweeb Alex Jones, or to never push back against him. So anyways, hit the super chat, support the show, thumbs up and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to leave you guys. Tomorrow, I do not have a show because I have the Ultimate Jam night tomorrow night at the Whiskey. One of the songs I will be doing is Spinal Tap song in tribute to Rob Reiner. And we love and miss him and his wife, Michelle. And it's just terrible. But I insisted that we do a Spinal Tap song just... so it's a little out of the theme that it was going to be, which is our sort of anniversary birthday show or whatever. So I wanted to do this. So we're going to be doing one of those songs. I'm also doing some Cheap Trick, some Journey, and some AC/DC. So it's a good time. You should come down if you're in the area. Of course, it's at the Whiskey at Go-Go tomorrow night. Shows at opening act is at 9 o'clock. We go on at 10 to midnight is the show. It's 2 hours. And it's a great time, and I host and do a couple of songs, and we love it. This is our special NAMM show for the National Association of Music Makers. If you're down there, by the way, I will also be in that neighborhood. I'm gonna be in LA at least till Thursday, so I'll do my shows on Wednesday from LA, and then I'm gonna go to NAMM that night and the next day. I might even go in the middle and do a special afternoon show on Wednesday from NAMM, like I did with CES. NAMM is the National Association of Music Makers. It's where all the guitar makers and gear people and all that kind of stuff show up. And who knows? I might even, I can bring my Zakk Wylde wah-wah pedal and have him sign it. Hi, thank you very much. I'm like a big fan. Would you sign my pedal? I want to step on your name. So until then, we'll see you guys. And this song very much goes out to Tucker Carlson tonight. He's earned it. Jesus Christ. Lord help us. Hit that like. Leave a comment too. If you're not in the chat room, if you're watching this later, throw an emoji in there. Facebook, throw in an emoji on your way out.